Alright, it's 9:30 in the morning, this just got dropped to me, so let's just go with it. Modrinth just posted this announcement stating that they are ending the partnership with Pyro, who have probably displayed up to the point of people calling me a Modrinth shill. But now it seems that Modrinth chose to set Pyro aflames, or so it should seem. But see, while this post just got made, I actually was in the middle of this story the whole time, and I've been talking to both sides and even signed some NDAs. And for this video, I've also gone out of the way to get both sides of the story, talking to Jay from Modrinth and Ellie from Pyro.
I'm the founder of Modrinth, started it about 4 years ago. We started as like small open source projects. Now we've grown into a lot more. Team of 12 people now, which is crazy to think about.
So what's the truth here? Why did Modrinth cancel a lucrative deal with an upstarting company? Was this corporate greed? Is Modrinth turning into the bad guy? Or is it just a general cluster bomb of incompetence? Well, my friends, it's both. This is the story behind the Modrinth-Pyro breakup. Okay, first, what happened? Well, as a Pyro Twitter account would put it, what the Sigma? Whoever made that tweet, by the way, and I know it's you, Evan, can sincerely jump into a pit of snakes like Harold Draga did. But anyways, in this blog post, Modrinth announced the fact that they're bringing Modrinth servers in-house, because at the time, it was still being hosted by Pyro, a small up-and-coming upstart, stepping away from their original partnership. A partnership that saw Modrinth servers skyrocket and burning through 2 terabytes of RAM a week. This month alone, they burned through 10 terabytes. You as an end user should not feel too much about this whole integration thing, and if any of that changes, they will let you know. But aside from the stock issues, which everybody knows about, this whole thing seemed to have been running fine, no? I didn't see anyone complain that their server stopped working or that the service was just unusable. Why cancel a deal that was clearly working? Well, for that, we need to first understand what the deal was. As I've explained before, Pyro was looking for investors at the time. They were approached by Modrinth, and Modrinth struck a deal where they would pay Pyro a starting sum of $1,000. They would allow Pyro to use the Modrinth branding, and in exchange, Pyro got 70% of all revenue generated paid once a month. They would also be expected to keep an uptime of 99.9999%, which is apparently the industry standard, maintain the backend and the servers itself, and provide support. Why cancel this deal? It seemed like a really good deal. Well, the key factor, as we said before, is that Pyro is responsible for its own growth, and by extension, also responsible for Modrinth servers growth. Pyro, being the upstart that it is, doesn't have the cash reserves to fuel an expansion of this size, and being only paid for 2 months now because the servers were only live for 2 months, they didn't have the time to get to a position where they had more money. With payments being only once a month, new nodes and other purchases needed to be planned in a ludicrous amount of detail.
We had to look ahead and, well, we had to predict basically how much revenue we were going to have. And at the end of our contract, we were growing 160% month over month, and that was only rising. We were never able to correctly identify what we would be at. What ended up happening was, due to us only getting paid once per month, Rimph provided us a card, from their bank, which allowed us to take part of our cut early to pay the initial payments. But that evidently didn't go over so well, even though the revenue that we were spending was not their money, and it was from our cut and deducted from our cut at the end of the month. The planning was incredibly intense, because if you want to onboard someone and you're paying them 24 an hour as your starter salary, right? We have to think okay, how many new servers are going to be created? And is me hiring this person going to put us out of stock forever?
And for Modrinth, as a business, it didn't make sense to keep paying for someone else's server. In the end of the day, it's your product being served, but it doesn't make sense, right? If you buy a car for a taxi service you have shares in, sure, you'll get money from what that car generates, but it's still not your car anymore. It's a car you bought for someone else. And Modrinth seemed to realize this.
In a lot of ways, we were paying for Pyro's growth and providing a large sums of money for every month just to keep growing the platform and let them buy more servers and keep growing it too. We're decently large. Like we have the funds to do it. It just like, you know, it's starting to become like quite a bit of a financial burden to like fund this growth, especially like when we were only receiving a small cut of the revenue. We want to like have our own like data center and like, you know, have Modrinth servers like fully under our infrastructure. And, you know, for long-term stuff like that requires a ton of capital spending. And, you know, we just couldn't like justify it under like the way it worked as is. A lot of other stuff too, like really had to do with the product and what they were focusing on versus like what we wanted to focus on. You know, now we know kind of like a lot more of this now that like we're working with some people on the Pyro team, but you know, it kind of felt like a lot of like the features we wanted to build for servers, or like, you know, we wanted them to do, just like weren't being prioritized in favor of like, you know, Pyro's like larger platform. And, you know, like I kind of get like why they would want to do that, but, you know, for us, like we want the best experience for like our users, our customers. So like if they're focusing on like their part of the products that makes the experience a lot worse for our users, like I don't know, one like example of something really simple we wanted them to implement, but, you know, was kind of just pushed aside for a really long time, is like letting multiple users like access servers. And that was like, you know, we were told it would take months to do. Like now we're hopefully shipping it in like a week or two now that we have like full control over the platform.
Then again, if Modrinth themselves were the ones buying these servers, the issue wouldn't have been this severe, right? They would just buy the servers for Pyro, Pyro deploys to it, issue solved. But I guess that's what they're going to be doing now anyways with OVH, as they struck a deal with them. The recent security incident at Pyro, that I've also covered in detail in this video, and I actually found the person who did it in the other video here, that also didn't inspire much confidence with Pyro in Modrinth. Having your service provider being breached in such a manner in such a short span of time from your launch isn't a good look for anyone in that position.
One thing is like we were really disappointed with the security incident. You know, as you probably know, like Modrinth has never had anything like that before. You know, we're really tight with like everything we do, and we try and, you know, make sure user data never leaves us. But that was like, you know, a huge loss of confidence for us.
Now, to say that Modrinth never had these issues is a little bit lightly pushed, in my opinion. We still have the occasional malware slipping through the cracks, but then again, CurseForge has the exact same issue. They are kind of right that Modrinth never had a breach where user data was in danger, so we now know the why. How about the how? Is Pyro doomed? Well, no, not really.
This is not the end of us. It's a major setback. We had to both downsize and upsize at the same time. We have people who had paid jobs here who no longer do. The only person who maintained a paid job was Fetch, and that's because he went over to Modrinth. The plan for us is basically to rebuild what we had before. Like we are working on a game platform. Basically, you're gonna start with Minecraft hosting, gonna be game hosting. You know, exact same spiel. Good news is we won't contractually be obligated to not use CurseForge, so it will have CurseForge support, as well as Modrinth support.
Now, again, I've been involved in this story in some capacity for the last few weeks. The official termination agreement was actually sent a few weeks beforehand and was very scary, with Modrinth's legal letter being very legalese as well, including some really no-no stuff like arbitration. Ellie, Pyro CEO, was facing a crisis here, and as they were at the risk of being homeless, which they are still at risk of, this stress was visibly affecting her to the point that Modrinth got a bit scared of her deleting data and servers as a sign of protest. Since this data was Modrinth's anyway, if Ellie did delete this, they would be in breach of contract, but that didn't stop Modrinth from trying to get that data, which was rightfully theirs. At the end of the day, both sides were trying to protect both themselves and their users, but thankfully they came to a more satisfactory agreement and got things smoothed out.
Yeah, so we didn't really do a deal of any sorts. Like we just kind of, you know, in our contract, we had like a standard termination things, so, you know, we just did that 30-day termination, but that was like just kind of part of our agreement that, you know, we agreed upon it initially. The one thing we did do, which is like unrelated, like we it wasn't like contractually obligated or anything, but, you know, we did send Ellie like a 10K donation. Ellie's the CEO of Pyro, just because, you know, they're in kind of a rough living situation right now. So, you know, we wanted to make sure, like, you know, we saw this like, you know, just as business, like we just, you know, wanted to end this partnership because it would be best for Modrinth, but, you know, we knew there's like a bunch of personal circumstances, so we didn't want it to affect that long term.
That donation to Ellie, by the way, is going straight to her ability to live and to the platform that is Pyro. So if you want to also contribute to that, I'll be sure to link Pyro's donation page in the description below so you can fund this amazing team. Because don't forget, the reason Modrinth Servers was this good was Pyro's insistence on top of the line hardware, its insistence on not over allocating nodes, and its dedication to provide the best user experience to you with their new panel and backend, something that Modrinth can build upon and hopefully do just as well. This team is very dedicated and passionate. Both sides are very passionate, and passionate people will make some mistakes, but at the end of the day, I think both sides still made the best decision in how they split up, with no ill will towards each other, with Modrinth thanking Pyro in their blog. But it's difficult not to feel like Pyro walks away the defeated party here. Modrinth gets to keep their popular servers platform, they get to keep the software Pyro made for them as per their agreement, they get to keep their user base, which granted came in thanks in part to the integration with the larger Modrinth ecosystem. And what does Pyro get out of all of this? The CEO gets $10,000 to continue living in a house, 2 months worth of revenue, and a thank you letter. That 2 months worth is still not nothing, but it's just a kind gesture, you know? It's kind for Modrinth to try and still give Pyro a chance, but it's, at the end of the day, still bittersweet for everyone involved. Ellie really did believe she could make this work and make this be a grand new vision for the hosting. Only seems that now it's not under the Modrinth brand, but on the Pyro brand, and we finally get some real competition in this space. But like I told both parties here, it's important to not have any animosity toward each other. This partnership proved that server hosting can be done right, that passion can win over greed, and the last few days, I think people tend to forget that. But anyways, it is currently almost 9 AM. I'm headed to bed. I was Lunar. You are very awesome, and I'll see you later, alligator. Alright, you know the deal by now. The interview with Jay, the CEO of Modrinth, is now up on the Patreon. It's a short interview, so it's free, but do consider giving me $1 a month for interviews with other people. And for example, the full interview with Ellie is on there. That's like 30 minutes of footage right there. And if you want early access to these videos, which this one probably won't have because this is really rushed, you can become a Pebble also for just $1 a month. It really helps the channel. It really helps me. And if anything else fails, just consider subscribing for more in-depth looks. And I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. I'm going to bed.